Hi, I'm Christian Leby with miracleofyoga.com. Few yogis think about the position and action of the thighs in the yoga postures. However, this is such an important part of the body to understand what you should be doing, because when you get the proper alignment in the thighs, which makes the knees face forward, then your pelvis comes into alignment, which is super important. The pelvis can move in a lot of different ways, and when the pelvis is not in good alignment, we're in pain, we're feeling it in the hips, the sacroiliacs, the sacrum, or the lower back. So understanding the correct action in the thighs helps big time to align your pelvis in the yoga poses. And having alignment in the pelvis is not something that would happen unless you think about it, because the ways that your pelvis are uneven, that is going to determine the way you do your yoga poses. Unless you understand these basic alignment points, when you follow them, they will bring alignment and balance to the pelvis, thereby fixing all sorts of problems. When we do forward bends, there's some very general things to learn with the thighs. First of all, they should be firm. Whenever the legs are straight, the thighs should be firm. When we do forward bends, the thighs tend to roll out. When we do forward bends, generally most of us want to roll the thighs in. You should roll the thighs in until the knees are facing forward. That's the reference point, until the knees are facing forward. Even in a seated forward bend, here, I can roll the thighs in to make the knees face the ceiling. When I extend the trunk forward, the thighs want to roll out. Now my knees are facing this way. Here, we want to roll the thighs towards each other such that the knees face straight up to the ceiling the entire time we're in the pose. In back bends, for example, we want to make sure that the knees stay the same width as the hips. We don't want the knees to fly out. This is the proper alignment in the knees, and we do that by rolling the thighs towards each other. When you roll the front of the thighs towards each other, it adjusts the knees. As well, in back bends, this is the most important action to learn. To keep the low back long in back bends. When you do this action correctly, when you move the tailbone down and in correctly, it pushes the thighs out. In back bends, we have to learn to roll the thighs this way, such that the knees face forward. If you're ever unsure of what direction to roll the thigh, look at the kneecap. There's 4 corners, and each corner of both kneecaps should face forward, or if it's a one-legged push, should face forward. Then you can see, the kneecap's facing this direction. In this pose, I have to roll the thigh in. The standing poses vary. In Utthita Trikonasana, for example, this thigh has to roll out. You can see how it brings the knee into alignment with the ankle. Now the knee's facing forward in this direction. Right? And when we turn the pelvis in the standing poses and we take the hands down, for example, the thigh tends to roll out. So here we have to roll the thigh in. Even though the outer hip goes back, the thigh has to stay rolling in. The reference point is straight. So you can always tell by looking. And there are some people who don't fall into the generalities. So in Tadasana, most of us have to roll the thighs in because they'll get pushed out when we take the tailbone deeply in. So we have to learn to do the tailbone movement and roll the thighs in and back. These actions done well create balance in the pelvis. This is really, really important. When you do all of these various movements and stretches through yoga, you're having to strengthen and you're having to stretch many of the connections around the pelvis. Now, if you do this correctly, making sure that the legs are straight, That is the root and the foundation to keeping the pelvis straight. Try to know what you're doing with the position of the thighs in each of your yoga poses. If you have any questions, I always mention the correct thigh action in all of my instructional videos for the yoga poses, but more importantly, take a look. What kind of rotation do you have to create in the thigh to make the knee point straight? That's going to be your answer. I'm Christian Levy with miracleofyoga.com. Thanks for joining me.